Today we're going to continue with our examination of karma and the afterlife. It is SD 48.1 and today is part 4, dealing with the dead. Now when we talk about karma, it means the actions that we do consciously and also wholesomely. And such actions can help the dying, and this term dying is very interesting in Buddhism. In an important way, we can say, as far as early Buddhism is concerned, there is no such thing as death. All that we see is the shelf life of the body ends. Because the body is physical, so it has some limits. Because of the four elements become unstable. Of course, in medical terms, part of the body, some organ ceases to function, so the body stops functioning and is unable to support consciousness. So the body ends, but consciousness continues. So what we understand as death in early Buddhism is simply the ceasing of the function of the body. So this consciousness moves on. So in that sense, it is not right to say that this dead person is still moving around waiting, although that's possible, but we're not sure about what can happen. In the case of the saints, it's quite clear. In the case of the arahats, as soon as they die, they are no more reborn. It's just like the flame of a lamp is blown out, extinguished, and that's it. They are no more reborn, just like that. In the case of the other kinds of saints, they may be reborn a few more times, at least one more time. And because their minds are calm and clear and focused and wholesome, if we follow the sutta, we are quite sure their rebirth is immediate. In other words, they pass away and then they are reborn in a new wholesome state. So what concerns us here, of course, it would be the unawakened, the normal will, the ordinary wielding. What happens to our relatives, our parents, our friends when they die. So this is the area which we will address today. So here again, we can't be too sure what happens to this person who has passed on. This word passed on is a very apt description. Very often we talk about the last thought moment of the person as being very important. It's the decisive factor in the kind of rebirth that this person would take. More correctly, we can say it's not just the last thought process. In an important way, we cannot really control the last thought process. The last thought process is a momentum. All we can do is prepare ourselves for the last moment. The irony here, the problem here is that we do not know when the last moment will be. That is why in our normal waking life, we have to habitually cultivate good karma. For example, we do breath meditation because we feel peaceful. We practice loving kindness, we feel joyful. And these are very positive states because when you are in that kind of state, it is highly unlikely you will have any kind of negative emotions, any kind of unwholesome states, especially greed, hate, or maybe a little bit of delusion because we're not awakened. So we have to maintain this, to put it very simply, this happy mind, this wholesome mind. Another way, of course, is to regularly reflect on impermanence. as mentioned in chapter 25 of the Samyutta. In other words, as long as we are not sitting in meditation in daily life, we just reflect on this idea of impermanence, whatever is happening around us, as being impermanent. And it's a very good strategic thinking, if you like, or a strategic state of mind. Let's say we are stuck in a traffic jam, and just reflect on everything is impermanent. At the same time, we can also do loving kindness, and before you know it, it's gone. The jam is over. When we are enjoying something nice, good food, we also reflect on its impermanence. So this kind of reflection is very important because it prepares us to accept whatever happens, whether good or bad, as being impermanent. And this is one thing which is very true, which we cannot deny, that everything is impermanent. So this reflection, in other words, anchors us to reality. And I would say this is a very good way also to prepare ourselves for that last moment, the last stop moment, which we cannot really control. In other words, we can, in a way, we can sense how our last stop moment will come when we pass on. Let's say some emergency suddenly occur, and if you notice you are calm in responding to that kind of emergency, so the chances are that when the last thought moment, when the dying process comes, you are likely to be calm also. So in other words, you need the practice. And once you have the practice, then when the last moment comes, you don't panic, you're at peace with yourself. Of course, there are other kinds of meditation, like the reflection on death, and we hear many stories about disciples who die, and they die very peacefully, and they move on very peacefully. So in other words, just as we welcome birth with joy, we should, by the same token, also send off someone with joy too, so to speak. In other words, we're telling this person, we're happy to have known you, and now you're moving on. So we wish you well. May you fare well. We don't say goodbye, we say farewell, something like that. So we create this atmosphere of joy and peace around the dying person, and this is very important. So in other words, when a relative, a friend, or even when a pet, an animal, is dying, it's good to gather around, especially loved ones, just be there, and send these thoughts, cultivate this loving kindness towards this dying person. If the dying person is comfortable, you can hold the hand gently. Or the important thing is just being present and kind of with a mind of loving kindness. Sorrowing, crying will not really help in this case, right? As we say in the Tirukuda Sutta, it says, "Nahi runnang wa sokowa," right? Neither lamenting or sorrow doesn't really help. So here's where you see this sick person, you see this dying person, you come with a mind of loving kindness, wishing this person well, feeling the great privilege you had knowing this person. Talk about good times. Listen carefully to the last instructions of this dying person. Maybe this person has some important things to tell you. So in other words, give every comfort to this dying person as you would talking to a relative, a friend, someone important to you. So be there, in other words, to help this person feel peaceful so that he passes on without any regrets, without reservations, with unfinished business and so on. And once the person has passed on, the next thing you should do is gather the family, inform relatives and friends of this important event, and to give support to every member of the family, especially those who need support. Some are stronger than others, some are more attached to the deceased and so on. So we have to help each other. This is a moment when it's very important to give comfort, joy, and confidence to the living, to help them go through to cope this very important moment of kind of passage, if you like, to prepare ourselves to send off this person who has just passed away. And then, of course, there are the social aspects. You have funerals, wakes, and so on. So this is where, as Buddhists, it's very important that we conduct the last rites as a family, as a community, if you like, as a Buddhist community, or as a community of friends. Of course, there may be non-Buddhists there, but that's fine. Everyone joins in, just be at peace, and then we can do some related puja, maybe the favorite sutta of this person to be recited. Some of them may like music. If they love certain kind of music, you can play this music for them. So it really depends on what kind of this person who has passed away. What were his likings in his life? What were his requests, which we should try to fulfill? So the Buddhist kind of funeral or last rites is quite flexible in that sense. But there are certain key ideas, key practices which should be done. As I mentioned many times, number one, we must always have this mind of loving kindness towards this dying person, because the consciousness could still be hovering around, especially if they are still attached to the family or the place, and they can sense this peaceful feeling, and that helps them to let go of the place, being attached to the people, and so on. So, and then at a high point during this last rites, it's good that people are ready to give homilies, rather to give eulogies. Okay? Of course, some Dhamma speakers may be able to give some homilies, some kind of good advice, supportive teachings, right? But it is a time, I think, many of us would like to say something important, something, our memories of this person. So we call it a eulogy. In fact, eulogies are really important moments of kind of connection with the deceased, because we remember happy moments, usually even funny moments, high moments, and special moments we have with the deceased. It's the way we would like to remember the deceased. And here is a very important lesson. Now, you know, in life we prepare our curriculum vitae, our CVs, our resume, we submit to for job applications and so on, and we kind of give a description of ourselves, right? So that is one way we know ourselves, or we want people to know ourselves. But better than that, we should constantly remind ourselves, what sort of eulogy would I give to my dear friend who's still alive? Now, if you can remember, if you can think of this beloved friend, beloved relative, and imagine you're giving a eulogy, those are the happy moments, those are the precious moments, those are the real connecting points that you have with someone who is very important to you. So it's very interesting to reflect here is that eulogies are not just meant for the dead. If you can, in your mind, think of someone in terms of a eulogy, you would value the person much more, rather than wait for the person to be dead to say those words. Of course, if you have lived well with this person that you love and that you cherish, and when the person passes away and you will say those words, they become even more meaningful, more beautiful. So this is where we can say, it's just like I might tell you this, I mean, if you really would like to remember, be kind to me, you would think what you would say at my funeral. what eulogy would you have for me? And you should tell that to me while I'm still alive. And you can do that. You have really shown your appreciation of someone you care for. I'm using myself as an example. You can use this for someone you care for, especially elderly people. And this is a wonderful way of appreciating their kindness. You don't have to tell them that it's a eulogy. You just say, this is my appreciation of your kindness, of your love, of your presence in my life. Right? So this is a wonderful way of celebrating life, so to speak. So death, therefore, is significant in the sense that it reminds us we all have a shelf life, we all have this time limit, impermanence. And because of that, it makes these people we care for precious and valuable to us. So impermanence is not something bad, it is something that reminds us to spend time with our loved ones, to cherish our loved ones, to be there when needed with our loved ones. So that when the time comes, we know we have lived well and we send this person off happily. Right? So when we see death in this way, we begin to understand the truth and beauty of the Buddha's teaching. The beauty is the loving kindness we exude, we send out. The beauty is the memory of the joyful friendships that we have, that we had in the case of someone has passed on. The beauty is the happy gathering, the joyful, meaningful gathering we have with relatives and friends, and how we conduct the last rites. And the truth is the teachings that we remind ourselves of during such gatherings. How we take this passing moment as a lesson. That's the truth of the Dharma. So we have this beauty and truth aspect in the death of a loved one. And this is a very important way of learning Buddhism. So Buddhism is not just listening to a recording like this. It also, in fact, especially can be learned in crucial moments in our lives. For example, when someone passes away. So this is our reflection for this time. So do read out section 4 for more details. At this point, let us do a short reflection to close this study. Impermanence is a very important teacher for us, reminding us how we are using our very precious and limited resource, that is time. And one of the most important things we should do is to learn. To live is to learn. To love is to learn. As long as we are learning, we will see impermanence in life. And that is the true learning. And when we reflect in this way, wisdom arises in us, so that we are better prepared when our time comes. Reflecting in this way is very good karma. With the power of such karma, may we be at peace with ourselves, even in this life, even now. Above all, by all this good karma that we have done, by the power of the three jewels, may we be empowered with the courage and wisdom to aspire to attain stream winning in this life itself. By the same token, we send out our loving kindness to all our loved ones, to all those who have been kind and supportive of us. May they be well and happy. To those people we know who are practicing the Dharma, may they too be well and happy. And finally, to all those people who are struggling to find the truth, seeking the truth, may they find solace in the Buddha's teaching in this life itself. May all beings be well and happy. Sadhu, sadhu, sadhu.